Hello Aries, how are you? Today is July 1st. I'm here to do your reading for the first half of July from the 1st to the 15th. Major astrological transits this month are, well, yesterday we had Jupiter conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. Today Saturn re-enters Capricorn on his retrograde journey. So those three guys are back together again, which kind of sort of echoes that that January eclipse to me, when it was like a big board meeting, right? So we have all the heavy hitters in Capricorn right now. And on the 5th, shortly thereafter, we have the final eclipse in the Capricorn Cancer axis. It's a lunar eclipse. It's at 14 degrees. And then we have on the 12th, Mercury goes direct. And then after that, like after mid-July, things should start quieting down a little bit, God willing. But let's get the energy. Now, actually, one thing I did want to say is the Capricorn Cancer axis eclipses are always very tough, especially for Aries, because they hit us at our deepest foundations. So even though it's like we're constantly dealing with some sort of trial or tribulation, know that with the passing of these eclipses, the thing that's sort of been rocking, and it depends on where it shows up in your chart, but in your solar chart, the thing that's sort of been rocking your most internal connections, your connections to your mother, your connections to your house, your connections to your early childhood, and how that influences how you present yourself to the world. Those have all been kind of taking lashes over the last few years with these eclipses. Those are now over, fortunately. So let's see what the energy for July, first half of July for Aries. What energy can Aries expect for the first half of July 2020? Oh, hold on. Oh, lovely. Excellent. And this is part of the same family. Actually, while I was shuffling before, two other cards from this family fell out before. Renew, and it's like also kind of that fire energy. So renewal, this will definitely, with the passing of these last eclipses, bring us new life and bring us a more fruitful, plentiful time. I also feel like this sort of given it's the sort of fire chakra, that this also speaks to, with the movement of Mars into Aries, we're going to feel reborn, right? Because it's more solar energy. It allows things to finally bloom and blossom. And you see this sort of like the winter behind us. Now, remember in the reading that I did literally 2 days ago, it talked about complacency and that moving out of that difficult winter, and that's sort of echoed here again. So fortunately, it looks like there's going to be, let's say, a change in spiritual weather for us. Can I get the challenge, please, for Aries? I just said that, and it literally just started raining here. Can I get the challenge energy for Aries first half of July, please? Challenge energy for Aries first half of July. Okay. Ooh, nice. Excuse me. This is a 5 of Swords. Talks about comparison. And then here we have the Fool, right? So it says to me that one of the things maybe holding you back is comparing yourself to others, comparing your journey to other people's journey. Maybe saying, why don't I look like the tree? Why do I look like the bamboo? Without realizing that actually you have, each one of us is planted in, is here to create what we are here to create. And my story is not your story is not my story. We each have our own journeys. And so we may be finding it difficult to take whatever leap into the next phase, into whatever this renewal energy is, because we're so busy looking at things outside of us. What I should have done, what I could have done, what I would have done. Well, why does that work out for her? Why does that, so it's kind of like very much, and also this with the person sort of has their eyes closed and focused on their chakras there and very internalized. It's very much about the renewal from within, right? So not necessarily looking to compare yourself to others to find your answers, but really going deep within to understand what brings you into alignment and what makes you feel like you're flourishing, right? And it's the same sort of theme here with the plants being echoed, that some of us are bamboo, some of us are oaks. We can't judge someone else's journey, and we can't also compare our journey to theirs. We have to look at ourselves as our own linear manifestation. Now let's get the lesson, please, for Aries, first half of July. Aries energy, first half of July. Lesson. Aries lesson, first half of July. Ooh, nice. So maybe, interesting also that this is 0-5, this is a 5 and a 1. Perhaps with the Mercury going direct, we get the information that we've been looking for, right? This is the stork, the phone rings, news starts flowing to us, or the information that we've been hoping for, right? She may be here in meditation, hoping to get a sign from someone, and the challenge may have been that we've been looking to others or comparing others in the hopes of figuring out what our next step is. But something is going to bring us that information on that allows for this renewal and this stepping off into the next phase to happen. Well, let's see what else we get here. Can I get the energy at the beginning of the period and energy at the end? 2 cards, one at the beginning, one for the end. Okay, this one is the magic stream in reverse. Let's get the other one. So talking about not flowing, right? Hang on. Can I get one more card, please, for the end of this period? One more card for the end of this period. Oh, 2 cards. Let's see what we have here. Oh, nice. Okay, great. So they're like really echoing. We have the listening card and spark, right? And this one we've had come up a lot, and it's about finding that creativity that ignites us, that makes us feel, these 2 cards have a lot in common right here, that make us feel, you see this, she sort of has these like red drops, which can be, they're the red hearts that turn into red drops, and they end up feeding this flower over here. So it's like sort of this divinely sent feeling of love turns into blood, sweat, and tears kind of, that end up planting and nourishing whatever our plant is supposed to be. And this card here, the listening card, is obviously about paying attention to the messages that are coming to you, but also to be wary of comparison, right? So I would say whenever you find yourself in a situation like, okay, I got that information, but she did or he did, but they're doing blah, blah, blah. It's really about focusing on the messages that are yours and taking your vision off of what other people are doing or what other people are saying or what other people want, or perhaps even how you thought this plant that you've created here, this spark of creativity, was meant to look like, right? Perhaps you thought it was going to be this and it actually ends up being a bamboo. Now I want to read this real quick about the magic stream. because it's in reverse. Okay, in a reverse position, the Magic Stream card represents swimming against the current. Okay, and remember we got that go with the flow card last time. There are times when effort and sheer willpower result in victory and celebration, but this isn't one of them. You can force inspiration. You can't force inspiration, and you can't manufacture creativity lest you borrow too heavily from others' ideas. Interesting. Neither can you make someone love you or orchestrate a series of events that might place you in a more favorable position. Now is the time to drop the trying, in quotes, and jump into the stream and float. Immerse yourself in the experience of being fully present with whatever is true for the moment. You'll never step in the same river twice anyway. Interesting. So this card actually brings up like all the symbols that we see here about this creativity coming with you, about things flowing to you, about not trying to look at what other people else or what other people have, or trying to make someone else into something. That's the other thing, make sure you're seeing this clearly. Are you looking at someone and expecting them to be a bamboo, but really they're an oak, So being very clear on the information that you have, listening to the things that people say that help you identify what they are, but being very still within oneself and really focusing only on manifesting what is uniquely true for you, regardless of anyone else, right? So not involving anyone else in your plans in the way that either they're a form of comparison, they're a form of benchmarks, or they are a form of, if I can just get that person, I'll be happy, right? It seems to be very much about pulling one's energy in to oneself and really bringing yourself into alignment with the divine, but also with the material. And this is that exact same kind of energy here. And that's interesting. We have a 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? So again, the very chronological development of bringing things together, kind of like getting your ducks into a row, but leaving others out of your future destiny, right? It's not about someone else right now. It's really just about you. Hierophant. Let's see how that plays out. 4, 5. 2 more cards, please, for Aries for the story, the first half of July. 2 more cards for Aries for the story for the first half of July. Oh, did I say 4? That's a 5. Sorry. 2 more cards, please, for Aries the first half of July. Oh, okay. All right, so we have 3 major arcana, so big deal, big time. Final card is the 6 of moving on, right? And interesting because here we have a 5 and here we have a 6. And here we have a 6 also. So here's the 4 cards that I got. Okay, we have the Hierophant, the Magician, the Lovers, and the 6 of Swords. Now, okay, so here's the 5, right? Looking at the 5s here, and it's about other people, right? I always think of the Hierophant, to me, it's one of the hardest cards to understand. It's about commitment, it's about tradition, it's about theology, right? And so together with this 5, what this is to me is really kind of letting go of a past dogma, right? Or trying to do things according to someone else's plan, or trying to do things in a way that are really rigid and really archaic, that don't leave room to flow, that don't leave room for newness, that don't leave room for, this guy's really, really rigid. And it's interesting because they're both spiritual. It's like there's like two forms of spirituality here. And of course, we could have the whole conversation about the patriarchy and the matriarchy and things shifting. It's like an old way of doing things and a new way of doing things. And kind of like in between, you have this Six of Swords kind of like moving to a new chapter. So moving very much away from the old, the rigid, the expected, what people taught you were supposed to do, what they told you were supposed to do, what you think you're supposed to do because everybody else is doing it, and trying to make a reality that's not yours happen. Because right now is a very rich time of manifesting. I mean, look at these two guys right here, right? He's reaching up from the sky and she's quite open, so it's a moment of newness, of things flowing in where there will be a choice. This is a choice card, and it's the next step after. It's this card is always, most people think of it as like a soulmate card. I always think of it as really the fall of man because it's, and I've said this before, so if you've been watching me for a long time, you already know my bit on this. But it's the angel coming down and basically giving them the choice, right? You can eat from the fruit of knowledge, of earthly knowledge. You can eat from the fruit of earthly knowledge, right? Here's what everybody tells you that you have to do. Or you can stay in sort of this bliss here as a naked, loving couple. Now, of course, we know what happens. And then, of course, they're banished from the garden and they have to start over. So it seems to me that there is a walking away, certainly a walking away. Some of you may be walking away from a very deeply rooted theological past. You may be walking away from your family's religious backgrounds. You may feel banished, like you've been kicked out of the Garden of Eden, but really you're finding your own Garden of Eden, right? And I think that's also because I was thinking about the presence of the garden in all three of these cards here. And it's very much about planting, things that bloom, things that blossom. And these are very colored as opposed to these, which are sort of like monochromatic, really rigid, really stiff. So, and this talks about not flowing, right? That's sort of like a rigid, stuck energy. So I think that many of you may be moving away from a lot of former schools of thought, right? And through listening, through conversations, through messages that come to you, maybe they come through meditation, maybe they come through learning, maybe they come through just listening to yourself, right? And the truth that comes up from within that tells you that you are this kind of plant and not these kind of plants, even though that's what you were taught that you were expected to be, that actually you can make the choice. And I'm looking at the hand gestures here, this is sort of like the commanding, this is the channeling, and this is the blessing. It's like I'm giving you a choice. Your choice is up to you. And on one hand, the choice can feel perhaps like a punishment, but it's really moving forward to calmer waters. So whatever it is, I would say an old doctrine, an old belief system, an old, this is what I was always told things had to be, is really coming up for deep change, significant change, where you will be forced to make a choice, or someone may make a choice for you, kicking you out of a situation that may feel to you like you've been cast out of the Garden of Eden, but really it's given you the opportunity to plant yourself in a new, more true reality. You see it kind of like there's all the twos and then we end up with the ones. we have the spark and the renewal as the sort of overriding cards. So there may be a breakup. You may walk away from a church. You may walk away from your family. You may walk away from friends. You may simply just walk away from a school of thought. And someone will definitely try and make you feel like this is an unfortunate choice. But I would say that's where this challenge of the comparison comes in, is that others may say to you, you know, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be doing that. When really what's lying underneath is sort of this moment for you to write your own chapter and walk away from other people's incorrect analysis of you. Also, it's 5 of Swords, so it's very much about walking away. Someone may have been playing games with you and you just drop your sword and you're like, I'm out of here. 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. Okay, let's get one last card here. Yeah, so it's really sort of, to me, very simply, walking away from someone else's definition of you or someone else's expectations of you and really tapping into your own new sense of vibrance, right? To me, these are the exact opposite, these cards. And this is like, to me, this is the story right here. Coming from here and moving into here. Sort of a very different belief system, different... like gone is the archaic and more present is our sort of natural laws and natural alignment. Here he is in a man-made temple with man-made belief system, all the sort of artifice and ritual that has been created. And this woman is literally just channeling sunlight and alignment, being one with nature. So, you know, there's also sort of this macro conversation going on also, but this to me is really the story of what's going on in your life. It's like some really just old man-made set of beliefs that's been keeping you down and keeping you trapped in some sort of comparison with what everyone else has. And now you're sort of willing to take a step forward and make a choice to get kicked out of that so-called Garden of Eden to move on to something that resonates more closely with you. Whoa, okay. All right, ready? So this is Ascended Master Helios, which is the sun. So this also speaks to me about the Leo energy at the end of the month. And citrine, which is one of my absolute favorite stones. If you're ever in a moment of depression, get a piece of citrine and I promise you it just flips your whole vibe. And here is the message. It's your time to shine, right? So I love that. And it's a 6, right? So if we wanted to, we could say we've got a 6, 6, 6, 6. And then it goes to 7, 8. Let's read this a little bit. But I love that final card here. So it's like I said, whatever you walk away from or maybe get kicked out of, whatever sort of rigid, or it could be a Taurus, whatever issue you had with a Taurus, that was mine, that makes you feel like you were rejected or mistreated or whatever, where you were forced to make a difficult choice. That moving forward, that process, is what allows you to finally shine, to bring you into this moment of renewal. And this is, this is a Gemini card, so we talk about the North Node in Geminis also. So again, even if it feels like you might be getting kicked out of the kingdom, it's because you're going to build your own. Okay, so let's read this. We bring you the blessing of your time to shine. On the divine path, you gain empowerment through surrender and alignment with divine consciousness greater than your own, right? And that's this alignment here that we were talking about. As you choose to surrender into higher consciousness through prayer and intention, you are held in a field of divine protection. You also gain strength, wisdom, and understanding. You release fear and gain love's power. Interesting. That's like this card here, right? Where the hearts turn into the sweat that goes into feeding this plant. You become increasingly radiant, discovering more of your own divine identity. At some point on your path, whilst this is always happening for you on the inner planes, you will be ready to perform a similar function on the outer planes in the world of forms. Amazing. This is when you will be asked to bravely shine your light to help those in need, perhaps lost or in darkness of some sort in the physical world. It is your time to shine. You do not stand alone, and yet you will at times feel as though you are the lone lighthouse shining truth for those lost in a stormy sea of darkness who need help to find their way safely to shore. You cannot fulfill this spiritual task if you lift your lighthouse self off the rocks and go in search of a sunny day. For the lighthouse to be able to assist those in need, it must be present and luminous within the darkness. And this ties very much with that last reading that I did. You must trust during this time that you have enough light within your heart from your own powerful inner connection to the divine light of love to sustain you as you shine bright through the night. If you sense that there is much pain and suffering around you, do not become afraid. You are fulfilling a spiritual task to help those who are lost. And interesting, because we also talked about a couple months ago that this was, that we were the teachers, right? So you are the lighthouse shining in the darkness. Okay, there's so much here, so I'll just give you this. It says, during this time, you will earn your spiritual stripes, so to speak. You will learn how to bring yourself back to your inner truth again and again. You will be the man on the ground, whilst spiritual headquarters keep an eye on what's happening in the divine playground. Okay. Let me see if there's anything here. No. Okay. Sorry, that was boring. So interesting. So yes. So also this takes on a new sort of meaning after looking at that, this is kind of like these two plants in the dark, and she's in the light. So also another thing, like be wary of comparing yourself to other people, because particularly if they're in a moment of darkness, you're shining and being yourself, staying aligned here with the divine and staying true to yourself and not necessarily falling into a set of imposed rules, particularly dark rules that come from ages ago, or fall, hypocritical theology is what I want to say. To stay in your truth, shine in your truth, being the man on the ground of this sort of very divine creative energy, and really stepping into a very vibrant new version of you, right? So even if it feels like it's hard times, to really sort of stay in this light. All right, cool. So I will see you at the eclipse reading, and I wish you a very lovely week. Take care.